Welcome to A Recipe Reborn featuring your favorite foods from Final Fantasy XIV. Hello, my name is Lemondrop and I develop recipes by combining real-life culinary inspiration with the in-game recipe, description, thumbnail, geography, and lore. If you're into 14 and food, please subscribe and click the bell for a new episode every Tuesday. Today I am making a Starlight Log. As you can see, this is a Swiss roll style cake, and even though it looks really fancy, constructing it is fairly simple. Looking at the description, thankfully this week there are no mysteries to solve. This is a Gridanian dessert, and it's shaped to resemble the many sacred trees of the Black Shroud. I also considered making this year's Starlight Roll Cake, which we can obtain in-game starting tomorrow when the event begins. Similar to the thumbnail of the Starlight Log, there are strawberries on it, which are meant to evoke the holiday colors of red and white. Unfortunately, this is December, and strawberries in Canada cost an arm and a leg. Not only that, strawberries are not local to the Black Shroud, so I've selected a few ingredients that are to feature in this cake. Starting with the chestnuts, I'm scoring them with a serrated knife to give myself a spot to get my finger under when I'm ready to peel them. Now I'm bringing them to a boil to soften the shells slightly before roasting. It's really nice to be able to work with ingredients that are in season so I can show you what they actually look like instead of a package. These go in the oven to roast, and I'm just going to let them hang out under a towel while they cool down. Don't want to burn my fingies. It may seem like a lot of work, but after going through the whole process, they basically slide out of their shells. Next, I'm moving on to the cake, which is a chiffon-style cake that contains oil instead of butter, and the egg whites are whipped into meringue before they are added to the batter. You'll definitely need a stand mixer or hand mixer for this. I'm whisking together the remaining wet ingredients before adding the dry ones, and the meringue comes last. In this iteration of testing, I added chestnuts to the cake batter, but I later decided I preferred the cake without the nuts, so consider this optional. Don't worry, we will see the chestnuts later in the filling. As usual for cakes and pastries, I'm sifting the flour to make it easier to incorporate and break up any lumps. Here's my meringue, and I'm adding it in 2 steps. I'm not sure why, but this is common practice with adding beaten egg whites to a batter. I honestly think it would be too difficult to add them all at once. The meringue is quite voluminous and may not fit in one go. If anyone knows of another explanation, let me know in the comments. The batter goes into my prepared pan. I just cut the parchment paper diagonally from the corners and stuck them together where they overlap with butter. Instead of dirtying a bench scraper, I decided to just slide the batter into the corners, which worked just fine. This is a quick bake, about 15 minutes, and while it's cooling, I'm going to work on the frosting, which will do double duty as the filling. This is basically an Italian buttercream frosting recipe, which means the sugar is heated and then poured into beaten egg whites. In this case, I'm using maple syrup, which comes to temperature quite quickly. If you have access to maple sugar, you could use that and make a regular buttercream frosting. But since I'm Canadian, I just happen to have an unopened liter of grade A dark maple syrup in my pantry. Standard issue. Once the meringue is stiff, just chuck in the butter 1 chunk at a time. If you have any trouble with the frosting splitting or curdling, bring it to room temperature, 21 Celsius or 69 Fahrenheit, re-whip it for 3 minutes and it will come back to life. To prepare my cake, I'm trimming one end to make a beveled edge. This will tuck nicely under the bottom of the roll. I'm also trimming off any hard edges that will make it difficult for me to roll. For the filling, I'm mixing chopped chestnuts into half of the frosting. The genius part of adding the chestnuts to the filling is that the size of the chopped pieces regulates the thickness of the frosting, so my filling will be nice and even. On the side opposite to the beveled edge, I'm adding a little extra filling so the center of the roll is extra gooey. This is for frosting lovers, which I'm really not, so consider this part optional. Now I'm ready to roll, and I'm taking my time. You can see the cake wants to just fold into an L shape, but if I let it, it will just break, which is exactly what happened during my testing. So I'm very gently pressing down so the first rotation curls into a C shape instead of folding into an L shape. From there, it's smooth sailing, just rolling and peeling back the plastic as I go. I covered it using the same plastic I used to roll it, and then it goes into the refrigerator to firm up for about 2 hours. To make the log shape, I'm cutting a thick slice off the end. That turned out nice. Then I'm just sticking the slice to the log with the frosting. Now I'm just frosting the rest of the log, and the really nice thing about this is that the more uneven and cracked the frosting is, the more it looks like tree bark, so I really can't mess this up. So the thumbnail obviously has strawberries, but I think chestnuts will do just fine. And here again is the holly I snipped for last week's princess pudding, getting maximum value out of that one. So in terms of execution, I think this turned out really well, and I think I nailed the shape in the in-game thumbnail. I'm feeling proud of putting cinnamon in the frosting, since the frosting is the bark on this log and cinnamon comes from the bark of a tree. I didn't want to overpower the chestnut, so I was very careful to balance the maple and the cinnamon to support it instead of drown it out. It was a bit rich for me, so I think I'd like it more with less filling, but I really enjoyed the crunchy peanut butter texture, so I'm not really complaining. What else is there to say? It's log. It's better than bad, it's good. For the full recipe and instructions, please check out the link to my website in the description below and in the card at the top of the screen. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week for the finale of my Starlight Celebration series.